Dear students, in the last class we discussed about scatter diagram method for analyzing correlation, and today we are going to discuss about correlation graph method. What is correlation graph method? Correlation graph method is a graphical method for studying the correlation between two variables. And what is the procedure of correlation analysis under graphical method? At first, we have to plot all the individual values of one variable on a graph paper in the form of dots. Then connect all these dots and obtain a curve. Okay. Then we have to repeat the same procedure with regard to the second variable. That means plot all the individual values of the second variable on the same graph paper in the form of dots and join these dots and obtain the curve in respect of the second variable. Okay. Now we get two curves. Okay. Then we examine the direction of the movement of the two curves. Based on the direction of the two curves, we can infer whether the variables are correlated or not. If both the curves are moving in the same direction, that is either upward or downward, correlation is positive. There is positive correlation. And if the curves are moving in the opposite direction, then there is a negative correlation between the variables. Okay. Then let us see a question. Examine whether there is correlation between x and y. We have to examine the correlation using correlation graph here. Okay. These are the values of variable x and these are the values of variable y. To examine the correlation between x and y under correlation graph method, first we have to plot all the values of x on the graph paper. Here the values of x is denoted by blue color. At first point, first value is 80. Okay. Then second is 84. Third is 112. Fourth is 106. Then 174, 176, 128. Okay. Then connect all these points using straight lines. Okay. Now we get a curve. Here the curve is blue color curve. This is the curve of variable x. Okay. Then plot these values, y variable values. At first value is 88. First 88. Second value is 96. Third is 108. Then 112. Then 136. Then 156. And last one 112. Okay. Then connect all these points. We get a curve, that is the curve of variable y. Here it is red colored curve. Okay. Now we get two curves. Observe these two curves. Examine these two curves. Examine the direction of these two curves in these various time periods. In all the time points, all the time periods, the variables are moving in the same direction. Here it is increasing, x also increasing. Here x shows an increase, y also shows an increase. Here x shows an increase, y also shows an increase. X shows an increase, y also shows an increase. X shows a decrease, y also shows a decrease. The x and y are moving in the same direction, but in one particular case, that is here, x shows a decrease, y shows an increase. Okay, except this particular case, in all other cases, all other time points y and x are moving in the same direction. Here it is in the opposite direction. Look at the question. Here x shows a decrease from 112 to 106, but y shows an increase 108 to 112. Okay, in this particular situation only x and y are moving in the opposite direction. However, when we consider the overall, or when we consider the average change in the variables, we can infer that both the variables are moving in the same direction, and therefore there is high degree of positive correlation between x and y. Okay, let us see the interpretation. X and y are moving in the same direction, therefore positive correlation. Degree of relationship is high, therefore there is high degree of positive correlation between x and y. Okay, then let us see another question. Analyze correlation using correlation graph method. X values, these are the values of x variable and these are y variable values. Okay, first plot the x variable values on the graph paper. These are the x variable values. Plot the values in the form of dots, then join all these dots so as to get a curve. Here this blue color curve is the curve of variable x. Similarly, we get a red color curve. This is the curve of variable y. Okay, then examine the direction of this curve. In all the time points, x and y variable shows the same, or moving in the same direction. Here y increases, x also increases. Here y shows a decrease, x also shows decrease. Y decrease, x decrease. Y decrease, x decrease. Y increase, x increase. Okay, in all the time points, x and y are moving in the same direction, and therefore we may infer that there is a very high degree of positive correlation between x and y. Okay, x and y are moving in the same direction, positive correlation, degree of relationship is very high. Therefore, there is very high degree of positive correlation between x and y. Then another question, analyze correlation using correlation graph. X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, when we plot the values of x and y on the graph paper, we get two curves. This is the curve of x, this is the curve of y. In all these time points, x and y are moving in the opposite direction. At first time period, x shows an increase. During that time, y shows a decrease. Here also, x shows an increase, y shows a decrease. X shows an increase, y shows a decrease. Okay, in all these time points, x and y are moving in opposite direction, and therefore a negative correlation between x and y. Since in all the time points this x and y are moving in the opposite direction, we can infer that there is high degree, or not high degree, there is perfect negative correlation between x and y. Okay, then let us see the merits and demerits of correlation graph method. You know, this correlation graph method is a graphical method, and therefore this method has all the merits of a graphical method. This is an easy method of studying correlation. Then correlation graph is a non-mathematical method, does not require any mathematical formula, and not affected by extreme observations. Okay, these are the important merits, the same merits of a scatter diagram method. Okay, then what are the important demerits of correlation graph method? It gives only a rough idea about the relationship between variables. Okay, numerical measurement of a measurement about the degree of relationship is not possible because no mathematical formula are used and not suitable when there are large number of observations. Okay, these are also the demerits of scatter diagram method. Okay, and it's the time for winding up our today's class, and thank you.